Imagine being 6 years old and called a queen, not in a fairy tale, but in a cold, echoing cathedral beneath stone arches and flickering candlelight. Imagine standing beside a grown man, a king nearly 5 times your age, as hundreds of nobles watch you pledge your life to a country you've never seen in a language you barely speak. This is not fantasy. This is history. This is the story of Isabella of Valois, a child born into a world where peace was brokered with marriage vows and little girls wore crowns not for play but for politics. A princess of France, she became Queen of England before she could write her own name. Her life would stretch across courts, kingdoms, wars and betrayals. And yet through it all, Isabella never disappeared into the roles others cast for her. She was more than a pawn, more than a bride, more than a ghost in the pages of treaties and royal chronicles. She was a survivor, a thinker, a woman who, despite the chains of her time, found ways to act, to influence and to endure. This is not just the story of a lost queen. It is a human story about identity power and the quiet courage to shape your own life in a world built to control you. Welcome to the life of Isabella of Valois. You're standing in the vaulted shadows of Westminster Abbey. It's the year 1396 and the air is thick with incense and whispers. Your breath clouds in front of you as you press a hand to your prayer book, heart beating faster than usual. Servants rush about adjusting candles, straightening tapestries, murmuring nervously. Something feels off. This is not the first royal wedding you've blessed, but it might be the strangest. They say the bride is a princess from France, daughter of King Charles VI himself. You expect a noblewoman, perhaps young, perhaps unfamiliar with the English court, but certainly not what steps through the Abbey's great oak doors. She walks beside the groom, King Richard II, 29 years old, golden-haired, every inch a king, regal, composed. But beside him, barely reaching his elbow, is a child. A little girl in a gown too heavy for her frame, pearls braided into her hair that shimmer like teardrops. Her hand disappears into the king's gloved palm. You steady yourself at the altar, stunned. The courtiers avert their gazes. They knew. They've known for weeks. This is Isabella of Valois, 6, maybe 7 years old. Today, she becomes Queen of England. The music swells. The voices of the choir echo beneath the Gothic arches. This wedding, for all its grandeur, feels less like celebration and more like strategy. You've seen brides of 13, even 12, but 6. Even in a world where children die young and alliances must be sealed quickly, this feels like a whisper of something ancient and uneasy. And yet, Richard's face is soft, almost protective. When he kneels beside her, speaking his vows gently, it's not lust, it's duty, a treaty in flesh and fabric. This marriage is not for love, nor for heirs, not yet. It's for peace. A truce to cool the blood between England and France. You pronounce them husband and wife with a voice as calm as you can manage. But in your bones, you feel the weight of this moment. You wonder not for the last time what path lies ahead for this girl queen in a world of kings and killers. Isabella's story doesn't begin in Westminster. It starts in Paris, inside the stone walls of the Louvre Palace. Born November 9th, 1389, she is the eldest daughter of King Charles VI and Queen Isabeau of Bavaria. Her cradle is lined with silks. Her lullabies echo in marble halls. But even before she can write her own name, her world is marked by madness. Her father, known by history as Charles the Mad, slips in and out of reality like a man in a waking nightmare. One day he's a devoted father lifting Isabella into the air, calling her his little dove. The next he believes he's made of glass and will shatter if touched. Sometimes he screams at shadows. Sometimes he forgets who he is. When the king's madness seizes him, the palace changes. Servants hush their steps. Doors close softly. The children Isabella and her younger siblings are whisked away. Her mother rules in his stead, a cold and calculating regent who watches her daughter not as a child, but as a valuable piece on the board of European diplomacy. You grow up fast in a court like that. France in those years is weary and blood-soaked. For over half a century, war has rolled across its fields and burned through its villages. The 100 Years' War has turned kings into soldiers and children into pawns. By the time Isabella is 6, the idea of peace is a distant dream. But the dream matters. It matters so much that a child must carry it. In secret rooms, French and English ambassadors whisper of a marriage. Richard II, widowed and childless after the death of Queen Anne of Bohemia, needs a new queen. France, desperate to secure a truce, offers Isabella. A dowry of 800,000 francs is promised, enough to refill England's empty coffers. And a 28-year truce, a generation's worth of peace. There's just one problem. Isabella is still playing with dolls. Richard resists at first. His grief for Anne is real. Their union had been rare, a royal marriage of genuine affection. But grief, like love, has its limits in a king's world. Duty calls louder. When the French send a painted miniature of Isabella, Richard studies it longer than anyone expects. Some say he sees not a bride, but a daughter, a soul to protect, a legacy to build. The negotiations take months. Every detail is bargained: her servants, her education, her faith. Most importantly, the English agree the marriage will not be consummated until Isabella is of age. She begins lessons in English. Seamstresses stitch gowns from gold-threaded silks. Her toys are replaced with books, her bedtime stories, now stories of England. On October 31, 1396, the first wedding takes place at Calais, a town caught between kingdoms. It's a small affair, mostly diplomats and nobles. Isabella's dress is so heavy she cannot walk alone. When Richard bends to her level to place the ring on her finger, he lifts her chin gently, almost tenderly. She doesn't cry. 1 year later, London holds its breath. The child queen is coming. They line the streets. Some climb rooftops, all to see this tiny figure in a litter adorned with roses and fleur-de-lis. She waves uncertainly as her coronation procession winds its way through the city. She smiles on cue. She sits beside Richard at the coronation feast. She tries the food, listens to the music, absorbs the moment. Behind her, crown lies a mind already learning how to listen, how to watch, how to survive. Richard sets her up at Westminster Palace. Her days are filled with lessons, languages, history, music, and diplomacy. She learns to curtsy, to speak English like a native. She is not just being raised to be queen, she is being shaped into a symbol. Richard visits her often, not out of desire, but out of care. He brings gifts, books, birds, fine toys from far lands. He kneels when he speaks to her. For a time, she feels safe. Other noble children live at court, and soon she finds friends. Chief among them, Margaret Holland, older, clever, kind. Margaret explains the labyrinth of politics. She warns of whispered alliances of noble houses with long memories and hidden knives. The child queen watches and learns. And slowly, Westminster becomes home. But peace like childhood doesn't last forever. By early 1399, the atmosphere begins to shift. Doors close faster, voices lower. Richard grows distracted. Visits fade. Gifts stop coming. One night, Isabella is told to pack. She is being moved to the Tower of London for her protection. She knows what the tower means. And in that moment, the girl who had once dreamed of being queen realizes she has stepped into a different kind of story. One that will test everything she has learned. You sit quietly in the Tower of London, watching the light shift across the stone walls of your chamber. You're 9 now, older, wiser, no longer the child who trembled beneath a heavy coronation crown. The tower is cold, but you don't shiver. You've learned not to show weakness, not even to yourself. Richard comes to see you once more. When he enters, you barely recognize him. His clothes hang loose, his once bright eyes dulled by sleeplessness and fear. He kneels at your side as he did on your wedding day. But this time his hands tremble. "My dear child," he says softly, "things are changing. You ask the question that's been burning in your chest for days. Are you still king?" His answer is quiet, for now, but you understand. The whispers, the missing servants, the way your ladies glance at each other when they think you're not watching, everything tells you that Richard is losing control. His cousin Henry Bolingbroke has returned from exile with an army. Nobles once loyal to Richard have turned against him. The peace you were meant to symbolize is crumbling beneath your feet. A few days later, Richard is gone. No farewell, no explanation, just gone. And in his place comes a new figure, a tall man in red livery, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Henry IV, the usurper. When he enters your chamber, you rise. You curtsy deeply as you were taught. You are still queen after all. He studies you calculating, then with careful words he speaks your grace. I regret the circumstances, but your future must now be discussed. What has become of the king, you ask? Richard of Bordeaux is no longer king. He has abdicated. You know what that means. You're young, yes, but not ignorant. What becomes of me, you ask, your voice steady. Henry hesitates. His answer is vague. Your future, he says, depends on many factors. Translation, your future depends on whether you're useful. You are no longer the girl queen wrapped in gold. You are a bargaining chip. In the days that follow, you're left in limbo, not a prisoner, not a queen, not a child, not yet a woman, just waiting. Henry's council debates what to do with you. Some say send you home to France immediately, too costly to keep you, too dangerous if you become a symbol for rebellion. Others argue you should stay. As long as the daughter of the French king is in England, her father will tread carefully. You are leverage, insurance. So they keep you comfortable, watched, contained. You, in turn, play the part flawlessly. You smile when expected. You do not complain. You show no signs of anger, no signs of ambition. But beneath your silence, you are calculating too. Your French ladies-in-waiting remain loyal. Madame de Ducy, your chief attendant, reminds you daily you are still queen. Henry has the crown, but he has not dared dissolve your marriage. You are young, but you begin to grasp the brutal logic of your world. Your worth lies in what others fear they could lose by harming you. Then the rumor arrives, whispers that Richard is dead. First, it said he died of despair. Then the whispers darken murder. You feel something cold settle in your chest. Richard had never been a husband in the way husbands are meant to be, but he had been kind. He had brought you books, gifts, protection. He had tried within the strange confines of your roles to care for you. And now he's gone. You press your hand to your chest and stare at the barred window. Your link to England is severed. What remains is silence. You are alone in a kingdom that once called you queen. In early 1400, Henry's government offers a proposal. You can return to France, but only if you acknowledge Henry as the rightful king and renounce any claim to the English throne. It's brilliant from Henry's point of view. If you accept, you erase the old marriage, break the treaty, and legitimize his rule, all without bloodshed. If you refuse, you risk imprisonment or worse. Your advisors argue. Some say go return to France where you can live freely. Others insist hold the line. You are the widow of Richard II. You are still Queen of England. You do not sleep. But then news comes from Paris. Your father, King Charles VI, during one of his rare moments of lucidity, demands your return. It's not a request, it's a diplomatic order. The French crown makes it clear delay will be seen as a hostile act. Henry agrees to release you. The treaty is dead, but he avoids blame. You are sent home not as a queen deposed, but as a guest being honoured. The journey back to France in the summer of 1401 is nothing like the one that brought you to England. You are older now. 11. You carry no dolls, only memories. As the coastline of France comes into view, you feel a strange weight in your chest. Relief, yes, but also loss. You speak French with an English lilt. You dream in both languages. You've lived among strangers who became your friends. You've worn a crown and learned the rules of 2 courts. Now you're returning to a family that feels foreign. Your father is not waiting. When you arrive, Charles is deep in another episode. He doesn't recognize you, thinks you're a ghost, or worse, an assassin. Your mother, Queen Isabeau, embraces you, but you see it in her eyes' calculation. You're not just her daughter, you're a tool, an asset. You understand, you always do. In the months that follow, you try to reclaim the pieces of yourself. You study, write, pray. You're no longer a pawn, but you're not a queen either. You're something in between, a girl with the heart of a survivor. And soon they begin whispering again new names, new suitors, new alliances waiting to be made, because your story, Isabella, is not finished yet. You're 14 when they bring his name to you, Charles, Duke of Orleans. Your cousin, a prince of the blood, son of your father's brother. He's nearly 30. A poet, a warrior, a man whose court glows with music, velvet and verse. It's a strange echo of your past. Another man, another crown, another alliance. But this time it's different, because this time you choose. You remember Richard, the way he knelt, the soft gifts, the silence of his end. That marriage had made you a queen, but not a woman. Not truly. This one promises both. Charles meets you in a gilded chamber lit by candlelight. He does not speak to you like a pawn or a prize. He speaks to you like someone who has read your letters and remembers your words. "I do not want the widow of England," he says, voice low and steady. "I want Isabella of Valois, the woman who survived." And for the first time, your heart stirs not with duty, but desire. In June 1406, you walk into the Cathedral of Notre Dame, not as a girl in a golden cage, but as a bride by choice. Your gown is deep blue silk embroidered with golden fleur-de-lis. Your crown fits. Your eyes don't wander the room looking for escape. You walk toward Charles, and when you speak your vows, your voice does not waver. This marriage is not a treaty. It is a partnership. The court of Orleans becomes your new kingdom, one of culture, of philosophy, of quiet strength. You surround yourself with thinkers, artists, women with strong minds. You establish a scriptorium. Patronized troubadours correspond with scholars. You are not just a duchess, you are a force. And Charles, he listens. He lets you speak on matters of war, of policy. He asks for your thoughts. He doesn't always agree, but he never dismisses you. In 1407, you give birth to your first child, a daughter, Jean. You insist on nursing her yourself over the objections of doctors and ladies who whisper it's unseemly. But you've seen what distance between mothers and daughters can do. You won't repeat it, not with her. You whisper in her ear in both French and English, promising a different life. One where love and power don't have to live on opposite ends of the castle. But peace, as always in your world, is fleeting. In the cold of November that year, news comes that shakes your soul. Your father-in-law Louis of Orleans has been murdered. Cut down in the street by agents of the Duke of Burgundy, the country trembles. And so does your home. Charles, now the head of his house, becomes a commander overnight. Vengeance burns in him. He sharpens his sword, gathers allies. The civil war that had smouldered in France bursts into flame. You do not stay silent. While Charles rides to war, you manage the duchy. You handle estates, write letters to allies, organize provisions. You command not with violence, but with wisdom, and people listen. Your second child, a son named Charles, is born in 1408. You name him for your father, but raise him in the hope he'll be nothing like the man you remember, haunted, broken, mad. You teach him languages, diplomacy, restraint. You make him laugh. You make him strong. But your body pays the price. In 1409, you give birth to your third child, a daughter named Marguerite, and the labour nearly kills you. You fade in and out for days, pale, shivering, your lungs burning with infection. Charles does not leave your side. Priests come and go, candles burn down to stumps, but you survive. Weaker now, slower, you walk with less ease. Your lungs ache in the winter. The physicians warn you another pregnancy could end you. So you make a choice. Not publicly, not loudly, but between you and Charles. The closeness you once shared, the passion, it becomes something gentler, protective. Your love endures, reshaped by necessity. But France spins further into chaos. The Duke of Burgundy begins negotiating with the English, your old enemies. You fear another war, another burned countryside. And this time you act. You reach across borders. Quiet letters to old contacts in London, couriers carrying messages dressed as merchants. You do what few women in your world are allowed to do, shape diplomacy in the dark. You remind Henry IV what another war will cost. Not just gold and soldiers, but peace, legacy, stability. You try with every ounce of influence you've earned to prevent the horrors you saw as a child from returning. They don't listen, or they listen too late. The war continues, civil war at home, English war abroad, and always the quiet war inside your body. Your strength fades, you age before your time, not in years but in bone and breath. The cough lingers, your skin grows thin, you feel your pulse in your fingertips even when you lie still, but you keep going. In 1412, with death close enough to touch you, call your children to you. You write letters, one for each, sealed with wax and the last of your strength. You tell them to be brave, to be kind, to see beyond the shadows of thrones and banners, to love. You spend your last days not as a queen or duchess, but as a mother, reading, smiling, holding their hands. You die on September 13th, 1412. You are 22. They bury you at the convent of the Celestines in Paris. The funeral stretches for miles. Kings, scholars, poets, ambassadors, they all come. But none knew you the way Charles did. He weeps for you. And when he remarries years later, he still speaks your name in his sleep. Your legacy, it's not a crown, not a war one. It's something quieter, deeper. It's the girl who watched kings fall and still learned to lead. The woman who was used as a treaty and became a stateswoman. The mother who turned tragedy into gentleness. You were called Queen Duchess Child Porn. But in truth you were a flame, and long after your body faded, your light remained.